Hello, everybody. Hello, 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 and welcome along to another one of these Light and Land live streams with myself, Sam Gregory, and I'm joined by Astrid McGechan. Astrid, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm fine, thanks. How are you? Glad to be here.
I'm good. I'm good. And Astrid, you are joining us from Germany, no less. Yes, the homeland.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. One has to come back every now and then.
Yeah. And how's the weather out there? And whereabouts are you in Germany?
I'm in East Germany, where I grew up, and the weather is just proper kind of winter start. So cold, close to freezing, rain every now and then. So
Sounds beautiful. It's funny. It's funny because thank you everyone who's letting us know where they're joining from. As ever, it's always great for us to see some familiar names and familiar locations. Dave in Reading, Frederick in Grantham, New Hampshire. I'm guessing that is Frederick. Forgive me. Kevin over there in Surrey. Yes, I was with some people last week who are Scottish, and they were telling me about all the frosts they've been having recently. And down here in sunny Dorset, as Jane will know, in Poole, it's probably not really dropped below about 8 yet, 8 or 9. It's not even touching any sort of winter, let alone autumn. So it's
well, we've had
interesting.
the watercolors here now, so this is very late. Obviously, it's been late in the UK, hasn't it?
Hmm.
But it's just about the loveliest colors now, so which is unusual to have it in late November.
Yes, I'm reading a very interesting book at the moment. I may have mentioned this last time about how the seasons are shifting and autumn is getting later and later due to climate-related change. And also, obviously, as you will all know, up and down the country out there watching, and hello to Joaquim and Ken, regulars, and Hazel, and Barbara. You guys will all know it does vary quite a lot across the UK, doesn't it? Us South Coasters compared to the Yorkshire, that end of things. You get autumn at quite a different time, actually. As David will know, he's up in West Yorkshire. So
Mm.
tonight we are doing the news show. I just have Astrid with me for the first 10 minutes as a special guest because we've got some Light and Land and Charlie Waite related news, of which Astrid is involved in all of those things. And so we're going to spend the first 10 minutes doing some of the Light and Land related news, including our 30th anniversary celebrations, and including very exciting exhibition that we're running in London, which you can all take part in, and I'm going to tell you more about that with Astrid in a moment. And then I'm going to jump into the normal news show after that with latest gear, equipment, my book of the month, which is a very exciting one, and we will finish with myself and Charlie doing a video image review of an image from Ed Rumble over in the Dolomites. Teresa, however you may say it, forgive me, just back from South Africa, 40 degrees and too hot. Blimey, 40 degrees. Couldn't cope with that. And Steve, a much more reasonable back home in Bath after a few days in Cornwall. In the Bath, Steve, or in Bath? You did say in Bath, so I'll take it as that. Right, enough of my nonsense. Let's get into it. So, Astrid, let's chat about the first 2 or 3 things which are Charlie and Light and Land related. So, Charlie has got an exhibition, hasn't he? Running 14th of November, 6th of Jan. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, it's an exhibition that's been running now. It started on the 14th of November, and it'll run until the 6th of January, as you can see there, in the gallery called Photic in Leamington Spa. So anyone being anywhere near, do have a look at their website for opening hours. But I think there's a few days over Christmas when it's shut. But other than that, you can go and see a wide variety of Charlie's work. Some that's sort of known and loved images, but also a couple of new ones.
Yes,
So,
that's interesting.
and Charlie will go to the gallery in a week or so for a whole day, actually. So anyone being in the vicinity on the 9th of December can go and meet him and talk and look at photographs and whatever, have a drink.
I'll tell you a little quick story then, because it's really interesting. It's great to see people exhibit stuff, and often there's a theme, isn't there? It might be with other people, and we're going to talk more about this in a moment with regards to what Light and Land are going to do next year and how everyone watching can be involved, and we'd love you to get involved. But obviously it's a commonly said thing that you need to see things in print, etc. But I remember the first time I met Charlie was actually at an exhibition he did in London. Can't remember exactly where, but it was at least 10 years ago now, I think. And it was the first time, although I'd seen a couple of books and all the rest of it, it was the first time I'd seen one of his prints. And obviously this isn't just wholly exclusive to Charlie, although I do think his printing is excellent. And to see some of these famous images which we've known of his for some time, and or of anyone who you admire and you go and see their work in print, it is really amazing. And so I would encourage you, anyone who can get to Leamington Spa, do go and check it out. And as we've said, if you can get there on December 9th, Charlie's going to be there all day. He's going to be chatting and you can talk to him about his images. He's always got lots of good stories actually about the background of some of the images. So that'll be worth checking out if you can get to it. 14th November, 6th of Jan. Right, let's segue, Astrid, because we've got a bit to cover from the Light and Land point of view. We want to talk about, let's just give it a bit of context. Next year is the 30th anniversary, isn't it? And
yes.
There's a few things going on. We're going to talk about two things today. The first thing, which we're going to just spend a couple of minutes on, is the exhibition that we're sort of putting together at the Mall Galleries in London. Now, this is something that's happened before, and we've got a couple of images of the space to give you an idea of it. But Astrid, would you mind just setting out why we're doing this, why we're doing it there, and some of the actual logistics of which I may throw in the odd question that a viewer may be thinking. And if anyone is watching and does have questions about this, obviously hit them in the comments and I'll try and ask Astrid while we're here today. But if you can give us a bit of the background, Astrid, that'd be great.
Yeah, so as I said, Light and Land celebrates its 30th birthday next year. So since 1994, we've been offering tours and workshops in the UK and abroad. And we thought there's nothing nicer than to celebrate this next year with an exhibition. And the reason why we're in the Mall Gallery is that it gives our clients the chance, or gives as many people as possible the chance to exhibit. So we want to give you all who are interested, who are either clients or followers or fans or whatever, the chance to exhibit. And it's a really big space. We have space for about 80 photographers or 80 people to exhibit. And no, you don't have to be a professional. No, you don't have to have been on a Light and Land course. Anyone can exhibit. And the theme is anything goes as long as it's outdoors, as you can see in the little text. So we want to give you the chance to exhibit. Our leaders will also exhibit, quite a number of them. I'm already looking forward. I've got my space paid up for, and so this is a really great opportunity to take your own photography, just that last step, to actually not just see your pictures on the computer or even worse on the mobile phone, but actually see them in print in a gallery and have thousands of people come and see them. So we've done it twice before. 2014, the year of the print, some of you may remember. 2015, Light and Land on the Mall. I do remember them because I've been a participant both times. And so this will be our very special event next year in September, first week in September, in the Mall Galleries in London. And you can be there.
You can. In fact, what's really neat is if anyone is interested in this, how it works with these sorts of things, in this gallery in particular, is it's all, like Astrid said, it's sort of divided into segments. So what we're offering are multiple segments that you can choose from, and you can book and buy that little segment, and then you can work out your prints and your shapes and everything within it. Now, a couple of things just to help you if you're watching out there. One, on the Light and Land website, there is a interactive map of where the segments are and the cost of the segments, and they vary depending on a little bit position, shape, size, etc. Now, second thing which might help you, if you've never exhibited before, it can feel a little overwhelming. You're not always sure about the right type of print, the right size to print things, how to price things, where to get your prints done, your framing, how are you going to curate it, what's the best use of your space. And we are going to do some sessions, Astrid, aren't we, to help people who sign up to this, both from yourself, from Charlie, and from some of our contacts, about how to get prepared for this logistically. So there will be a lot of hand holding there, won't there?
Yes, hand holding actually throughout. So we will have those sessions where we will talk you through how to exhibit. I mean, Charlie has, I don't know how many exhibitions to his name. I've done a few exhibitions. Many of our leaders have done exhibitions before, and we will have contacts, we will have help from people who can do your printing, who can do your framing. We will help you with information how to select a panel, how to select your work for the space you might want to book. So the spaces are usually about 2 meters, between 2 meters and 350 or so in space, which sounds small, but actually, if you want to fill it, it's quite a good space to fill, but it's not overwhelmingly big. So it's quite manageable. And we will talk you through it, and we will give you all the information you need. We will give you deadlines. We will tell you what we need exactly from you, how to provide that to us, and how it's all going to happen. The only thing that is important is that you are happy to help us hang your work. Well, you have to hang your work unless you're abroad and you cannot attend. Then obviously we will find a solution. But if you're in the vicinity in England, you will hang your work and you will pick it up at the end. These are the only two caveats, obviously, because there's just a handful of us at Light and Land. And
there's some logistics.
We cannot handle 80 people. So other than that, we will basically provide you with all the information that you might need.
Yeah. And as we've been talking, I've been flicking through some of the images, and this is actually from a separate exhibition, but it gives you some idea of the space. It's a very nice open space, central London. And Astrid said you do literally get thousands of people there through the course of the week. There's a lot of footfall. So I just from my point of view, before we kind of come towards a close on this, is one, it's a great experience to get yourself prepared for an exhibition, to see that whole process from the point of view of picking your images, printing your images, framing, curating, thinking about the order they're going to go in, pricing. Two, if you can get friends and family there as well, it's very exciting, and it brings a lot of your hard work in the field to bear, shall we say, if you can show it to people, to your friends and family, and to have other people. It's quite interesting watching members of the public look at your work as well. And also you can sell stuff, and there's no commission. We don't take anything, they don't take anything. We take the money for you, or Light and Land take the money for you, who are manning the stands, and you get all that money back. So with the space, with pricing, if you sell one, depending on what your prices are, that might well cover it. If you sell a couple, then you're in business. And so it's really interesting, and this is a topic for another day because we do not have time now to cover what sorts of things sell and why, and that's very difficult to pin down. There's no right or wrong. But I saw the 2015 exhibit. Actually, that's when me and Paul kind of got together and met the first time, and a good number of images sold there, a real good number of images across a few different types of genres, etc. So just to finish on this, Astrid, and I'm losing my voice, which should be fun for the next 15-20 minutes. The theme we've mentioned is just outdoor, so that can cover any sort of outdoor photography, correct?
That's correct, yeah. So whether it's landscapes, architecture, street, or abstract photography, creative techniques, anything goes as long as it's outdoors. So flowers, we've had anything before. We had the whole variety, starting from underwater sea life to the most fantastic landscapes and gritty street photographs and so forth. Yeah. And so anything goes as long as it's outdoors.
Yeah. Okay. Fab. My only tip for people is think about what someone might want to put on their wall if you're there to sell stuff. If you're there to sell stuff, that's one thing. If you're there to exhibit your work and just enjoy that, put exactly what you want up. Yeah. But we will give you lots of help on that.
This was my panel in 2015.
Yes, I was going to say,
the middle picture and the bottom sold twice. So I was a very happy bunny.
The White Cliffs. Hey?
Yeah, and not to friends or relatives. So some
real people.
Yeah, real people. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was really exciting when I got a call from Light and Land saying, your picture sold.
Yes.
And also we will have information sheets about all your work with contact details if need be, if you're happy, websites and so forth. We have a catalog. One of the pictures that I sold in the gallery, but the other one, I was contacted afterwards, a week later, by a lady who'd picked up a catalog, and she checked out my work, and she contacted me later. So it's not just for that week, but it can have longer lasting effects, as it were.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it'd be a really nice atmosphere. You can meet lots of other people there, like-minded people, appreciate their work as well. So we'll wrap that bit up. But if you want to know more about that, we will mention it, obviously, again, probably on here, lightenland.co.uk. If you scroll down to the bottom of the homepage, there's an image there where you can get to the information about the exhibition. And if you have any questions, just email the team admin at lightenland.co.uk or give them a call or whatever else, any other way of contacting them. Now, just before I let you go, Astrid, and thank you very much for your time, because we're going to just do a couple more minutes and then I'm going to let you go and I'm going to get into the news show and hope my voice lasts for that long. The other thing we've been doing, which has sort of been going on this year, and this is just a final call, isn't it, is for people who've booked on a workshop between the 1st of July, end of this year, 31st of December, there is the prize draw, isn't there? So maybe could you just briefly surmise that as a final wrap up?
Yeah, so you've got 4 or 5 weeks to go. If you have booked or will book any tour or workshop between the 1st of July and the 31st of December this year, you can enter our free prize draw with your booking number, and we will have a live prize draw on the 1st of January next year, and you can win 3 prizes, vouchers of £1,000, £2,000 and £3,000, and you can use these vouchers for any tour or workshop that is listed on the Light & Land website in 2024. So if it's listed in 24 and you book it, it may happen in 25 or even later, but if it's listed, you have the whole year to decide on what to use it. So it doesn't have to be, the tour doesn't have to happen in 24, as long as it's listed and booked in that year.
Yeah. Okay, so if you've been on anything within those dates and or booked anything within those dates, there's no cost to entry. Just make sure you've got your entry in. And again, any queries on that, you just email the office admin at lightenland.co.uk. And imagine that, £3,000, you could go anywhere, which is why I put this particular image up, because this would be a bit of a big trip, and that would make a huge dent in some of those costs. So do get involved with that if you haven't done already. Right. Astrid, yes, you could use that towards a booking for the exhibition, Kate says. There you go, that's a clever way to think about it, Kate. Astrid, I am going to let you go, because I know you've come off duty to help me tonight, so thank you very much.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here.
Nice to see you. And I'm sure we'll see Astrid on the live stream next year. But for now, thank you very much. And I will carry on with the news, so everyone stay with me. But Astrid, cheerio for now.
Thanks very much. Thanks.
Cheers, Astrid.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye-bye. Okay. Right, it's just me, gang. So let me just get myself together for the news, because we have got a fair amount of stuff to cover in that news segment, and I'm going to just pop that up right now. So here we are. We're going to do 15-20 minutes of news, that's all, and I've got my book of the month, and we'll come to that last. Bit of news to cover. We've got some gear, some new gear. Obviously, it's Black Friday coming up, so that means we should all abandon any sense and just buy everything we possibly can, because that's what all the retailers want us to do. But joking aside, if you have been hanging on or you fancied something, now is usually a pretty good time to buy it. Most of the manufacturers have got some sorts of deals on. I've put Wex up here as a retailer. There are other retailers available. Obviously, do just check out, because some retailers have different offers to others. Some manufacturers have different offers through different retailers, etc. Why I've put this up is because I think my top tip for certainly any of you Fujiers out there are some really good deals on Fuji related gear at the moment. X series and the medium format, the G series, GF series, whatever you want to call it, both on the bodies and on the lenses. So if you've had your eye on something and you've not quite pulled the trigger, do have a look. You might want to get into it. For example, the GFX 100S, not the second version, but the first version, is now just 4,500. It is just for a 100 megapixel medium format camera. That's bonkers. That's really cheap. So that's a nice thing to think about. Let's get into some of the actual new gear though that has rocked up, and I'm actually starting not with a camera but with some paper, because many of you might know I'm a Fotospeed fan. I'm a Fotospeed ambassador, in fact, one of their photographers, and they have just released the new Matte Baryta 310 paper. So any of you out there have used Fotospeed paper, specifically the Baryta paper, let me know in the comments. It's an excellent paper, but this is a development on that Baryta theme, and they have now done it with a matte finish. So this has a smooth matte surface. It is OBA free. OBAs are optical brightening agents, and if you put those in, the paper looks really bright and punchy at the beginning, but over a period of time it fades. If it's OBA free, what you see on the print at the beginning will be what is there in decades to come. So that is a positive thing, to be OBA free. And it has a white base, and I'm personally very excited about this because it's not quite got the same sort of texture as the normal Baryta. It's going to be a little bit smoother. So I've got some coming, and I'm going to be doing some video reviews comparing the matte Baryta with the normal Baryta and the platinum etching Fotospeed paper, which Charlie Waite uses for all his prints, with the cotton etching, which is the other new paper from Fotospeed. Okay, so keep your eye out for that, everyone. There'll be some more videos coming down the line where I get into some of the details on the Fotospeed paper. Now, talking of printing, I don't want this to turn into a Fotospeed fest because it's not all about them, but Canon are doing winter cashback offers on their printers, selected printers. So again, if you've been umming and ahhing, or if you've got a fairly cheap printer at home and you fancied something upgraded, and we do talk about the importance of print a lot, and I do, then the Canon Pro 300, which is next to me here on the desk, is an excellent printer up to A3 plus. They're currently offering an extra £100 winter cashback, so that brings the price down to 548. This is through Fotospeed, down from 699. So you can see on the screen 648, that's before the £100 cashback that you Canon give you. And if you wanted to step up a little bit more seriously than that, then the Canon Pro 1000, which is an absolute monster of a printer, bigger ink capacity than the Pro 300, which is a little more practical, if I'm being completely honest, but it takes up a bit more floor space on your desk, so you've got to make sure you've got space for it. The Pro 1000, it prints up to A2, and after the winter cashback, you would be paying $849, and only a month or so ago, that would have been $1089, so that's a huge amount off. So if you've been thinking about a printer, if you reckon Santa can get a printer down your chimney and/or in your sack at the end of your bed, or you need to have a word with the Mrs. or Mr. in the family to get you a nice present for Christmas, then a Canon Pro 300 or a Pro 1000 wouldn't be a bad bet. There are other options, Epson, etc., but I just know that Canon have got this winter cashback offer on, so it's a really nice time to do it. Right, I'm going to keep rolling because we've got a bit to cover. Thank you for hanging out with me for a few more minutes. New camera. Always new cameras, isn't there? New cameras and lenses. This is the Sony A93 global shutter system. I'm going to do my best to explain what that means in a second. There's been a lot of buzz about this because it's new. Most cameras operate on a rolling shutter, and I've tried very hard to understand this, but essentially it means when you click the button and open the mirror, or if it's mirrorless, obviously you don't do that, you just open the lens. Usually the data hits the shutter and rolls down from the top to the bottom, and that's how the pixels are propagated from the top to the bottom. That's called a rolling shutter. So every time you shoot on a multi-burst, it's trying to fill that data in. On a global shutter, it doesn't roll down from the top, bang. As soon as you open the shutter, all the data is captured on the sensor straight away. Don't ask me to explain any more than that, because that's all I understood from it. What it means in reality is that you can have amazingly fast shutter speed times and shove in a lot more frames per second. So Sony and all the sports people are very excited about this, because if you imagine you're shooting Formula One or the Olympics or football, when stuff's happening right in front of you super fast, you can now shoot off 120 frames per second with focus tracking on, which is all run by AI. I mean, I know this sounds like complete bananas. What happened to just pointing and making a nice pretty image? But if you're shooting sports or action and you want 120 frames per second, imagine you're capturing a bird dropping down a kingfisher into the water. You'd get the whole thing, and this camera can do it. And it is a mere £6,000. That's what you're paying for, everyone. So it's interesting. And before I move on from this, what's interesting is I think the megapixel race is over. We can do big sensors. Now what's happening is functionality that will change potentially the types of shots we start to see. You can now stop a speeding bullet with this image, with this camera, and also the Nikon Z9. I've seen pictures of a bullet being shot from a gun, which you can now capture on these cameras. Is that good? Is that bad? I don't know, but you can do it. And as Dave points out, 120 frames a second for 1.5 seconds only. That's all you need, Dave. If you've not got it in the first 180 frames, you ain't going to get it. That's what I say. Joking aside. Looks pretty. Looks expensive though, doesn't it? Let's move on from that. Right. Staying Sony though. FE 300mm Sony. 300mm f2.8. That's going to be heavy, isn't it? No. It's 1.47 grams, apparently. This is the lightest 300mm f2.8 on the market. And actually f2.8 300mm is ridiculous. That will be very shallow depth of field. Obviously, as we all understand, the longer the focal lengths go, depth of field feels bigger even at smaller apertures. But this is a lovely new lens, which is only £5,000. So if you put those two things together, you could spend £11,000 shooting speeding bullets from a distance. There you go. That's what that's what I'm going to suggest that you do. You can see I'm being a bit silly tonight. I'm sorry about that, everyone. If you are a Sony person and you like your wildlife or your action stuff, then that would be a bit of a treat, wouldn't it, that lens? Maybe a little bit more realistically, Canon have brought out 3 new lenses for their R series cameras, including, and I think this is quite interesting actually, a 24 to 105 2.8 L. Now, often with the 24 to 105, they've previously been f4 lenses. So this is f2.8. That is obviously a big improvement, especially at that 70 to 105 end. You'll really appreciate that 2.8. It will drop that background out a little bit more. Non-extending barrel, so what you see is what you get. It doesn't zoom any further. However, this is also not cheap, £3,500. Although that's pricey, isn't it? That makes me wince. It is the kind of thing that at 24 to 105, you may only need that one lens. You may never need to put anything else on it. Obviously, a lot of people have had in the past 24 to 70 and then 70 to 200. That's been their sort of 2-lens setup. These days, I think for some people, 24 to 105 is enough. You can crop in a little later if you wanted that extra length. But you'd hope it'd be enough for £3,500. But if you wanted a one-stop lens that kind of did a bit of everything, certainly landscape related, cover 90% of the situations you'd need, and you're on the Canon Rs, then that might be a nice option. The other one they've brought out is a 200 to 800. 200 to 800. Now that's only just over 2,000. I would say if you're into your wildlife, perhaps that might be a nice lens to think about. Don't know how many of you are. Let me know in the comments. Do you shoot much wildlife, birds, for example? Then this 200 to 800 on safari, for example, might be nice. Actually, my little tip here is if you are ever going on a trip like that and you think, well, I need a lens I don't have, you can always rent them. That's worth considering. You could rent a lens for a week or two, see how you get on with it, and or just rent a speciality long lens. We talked about that in the Spitsbergen live stream a couple of weeks ago. And the other one they've released, if you're a Canon R user, the APS-C Rs anyway, is the 10 to 18 mils. That is obviously a wide angle, much more affordable 379. if you're sporting one of those R APS-C model cameras. Just a couple more bits of gear, don't worry, and then we're on to the books. DJI Osmo, for all you selfie shooters out there, vloggers, bloggers, joggers, whatever you might be. This is quite a neat little thing, actually. I haven't used this one. I've used similar things on jobs, and it's quite neat. You can angle the camera. It's got a touch screen. The audio is pretty good on this as well. So if anyone's thinking of starting their YouTube channel and you want to do some vlogging from the amazing locations you go and shoot in, then the DJI Osmo at 489 might not be a bad shout. Similar to a GoPro, but maybe a little bit more spec on there. And the final thing which I want to show you, which I think is kind of baffling, cool, and a bit nutty all at once, is someone has developed a digital sensor back to fit into 35mm analog film cameras. They've done it. They've finally done it. So if you have an old 35mm Olympus OM2N or similar, you can get rid of your Kodak Portra at £20 a roll or whatever it is we're all paying for film these days, and you can just buy one of these digital sensors, and it inserts like a canister of film. It's completely bananas, and it's on Kickstarter, and unbelievably, they've already raised nearly £500,000. Which, for anyone who doesn't know what Kickstarter is, I'm sure you all do. People put an idea up, they have to show they can pretty much do it, and then the viewers back it. They pay for it to get early access, and usually at a slightly better price than when the thing actually comes to market. And it's an interesting way to have products, test the market, etc. Now this is going to come out, I worked out the currency translation, it's going to come out around just under 500 quid. For a unit that goes into the back of your old film camera and turns your old film camera into a digital camera. That's the theory. Now, if you've got old 35mm cameras and a few lenses, you could argue actually that's not a crazy idea. You might like the way they feel and use, and you've got a myriad of lenses for them. But again, it's not cheap. And what's the quality going to be like? Who knows? I haven't used it. So don't lose the house on this bet, on my recommendation. But I think if you are a 35mm hoarder and you've always been intrigued about how it would convert to digital, then that might be something to think about. Now, just before I get into my book of the month, and thank you very much everyone for sticking with me. Teresa says, thanks for the recommendation for the lens cap stickers. They're simple but so useful. Good, I'm glad you found those. So for anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about there, on the last news show, I mentioned the Field Made company who produce a series of stickers that go on the lens caps and on the back of lenses or on body caps, and you can then sticker up your gear so you know this is the 24-105, this is the whatever body. So I'm glad someone's made use of them. I really think they're fab, and they're super cheap and affordable as well. Right, last couple of bits to do. Thank you everyone for your patience with me while I've rattled through that. My book of the month. Previously, I've done a mix of new books and of used books and of old books, stuff from my bookshelf. But I really wanted to talk about this book, which is a brand new book. In fact, I even have it here because it's a fairly sizable bit of kit, which is always nice. This is a book from Michael Kenna. It goes alongside an exhibition that he's been having on in the States, which celebrates 50 years of his work. And actually what's interesting about this book, one of the interesting things, is it's called Photographs and Stories. So the main body of the book consists of 51 images from Michael Kenna, one from each year between 1973 and 2023. So he's gone back through with a couple of people and they've picked out an image from every year of his back catalogue, and they're shown obviously as I'm flicking through a couple here. Now I mentioned what's interesting is the work goes through some of his different locations in Japan, in Italy, in America, in France, in England as well. Obviously, if anyone, I'm sure you all know who Michael Kenna is, but very experienced photographer, very easily recognizable style, very unique in a way of his work as well. And I think the interesting bit though, or the particularly interesting bit, obviously the printing quality is really good, so that's excellent to see. But what's interesting is at the back of the book, there's a few pages where Michael elaborates on some of the background behind the images. Now, some of these, they're not strictly technical things like I made sure I did this f-stop and the shutter was this. It's more about the location at the time, maybe things that were happening in his life, things that he was aware of at the time or not aware of at the time, both in terms of that particular image and his work and how it changed, and thematically how it spanned out over a period of years. So it's a really, really interesting look at his work as a bit of a retrospective over those 50 years. Sometimes photo books with just the photos, obviously that's interesting of itself, but I think when there can be some text from the photographer themselves and or some, I would call, sensible critiquing or sensible point of view on the work from another qualified person, it can just add a little bit more context to it. In the same way, if you hear music, you can enjoy the music for what it is, but if you understand from the composer what they were trying to do with the music, or where they were in their life, or what inspired the music, or a chef, you can enjoy the food, but if you know there's something more behind it, why the chef works with those materials, why the chef uses those ingredients, whatever it might be, then I think that can only add to the product, so to speak. And Ken here says he's had his copy for a few weeks now, and fabulous examples of his works. I would agree, Ken. I think if anyone has not got any Michael Kenna books, then this would be a neat little way in, a gateway drug, so to speak, to the Michael Kenna world, where you can get a feeling of his different work, and then after that you can go and explore some of the individual books which have obviously projects in a bit more detail, sort of thing. So it's called Photographs and Stories, Nazreli Press. They only made 2,000 of these, so I'm not sure on the availability. I would imagine there's probably a few around, but if you're interested, stick it on your Christmas list. That might be a really nice one to have. It's a substantial size, like I say, excellent print quality from front to back. So highly recommended from me anyway. All right, good. Let's just say, there's a couple more bits there. I think that is it for my news. So thank you very much on that. Let's pop that out for now. And what we will do in a moment is I will finish with the video with myself and Charlie talking about an image from one of the Light and Land leaders. And today we're going to be talking about an image that Ed Rumble shot in the Dolomites. Now, we had Ed on a couple of live streams ago, Ed and Tom, and we talked about this image with them and with Ed, who took it at the time, but I wanted to get Charlie's opinion and thoughts on it as well. Now, just before I jump to that, I want to say thank you very much for watching. In terms of what's up next, I'm just clarifying the dates because there's some moving parts. A lot of us Light and Landers are on various trips and out shooting a lot at this time of year, but I'm hoping to have a bit of a winter photography special before Christmas. So it'll be in the first couple of weeks of December with myself and 2 or 3 Light and Land leaders, and we're going to walk through some of our favourite winter-based images from our back catalogues, and we're going to talk about some of the stories behind where we were, how we shot them, thoughts from a tech point of view, thoughts from a feelings point of view, whatever it might be. So I hope that will be a nice one to have for us all before Christmas, and then we're going to have a new schedule of live streams coming into the new year with some more guests coming on and a couple of other different vibes as well. But just before I leave you, I might be asking you guys to send us your favourite winter shots, and I'll tell you about that in the live stream in a couple of weeks' time. But just be back going through your catalogues, looking into your Lightrooms or however you store your images, and think about what might be your favourite 2 or 3 winter images, because we're going to ask you to send us them. Don't do it now. I'm going to tell you how to do it and where to do it next time. But have a think about them, and we're going to ask you to send a couple in each, and then some of us will have a look through those images and talk about them on a stream after that as well. Okay, so that's just a little bit of background. But for now, I'll say thank you for watching. I'm going to finish with the chat, Charlie and I doing the image review. That'll be 5 minutes. So if you If you can stay with us till the end, you can enjoy my chat with Charlie. But otherwise, I shall see you in a couple of weeks' time for the winter special. Stay tuned to the newsletter and we'll give you the exact date and time of that still to come. Okay, here we are with myself and Charlie for another one of these image reviews. And Charlie, this is an area you and I both know and love a lot, but represented in a slightly different way. And I'll throw to you in just a second, but just for everyone watching, this is a picture by our leader, Ed Rumble, who leads the Light and Land tour to the Dolomites, along with his partner, Tom Sullum, photographic partner. They're heading out there in June 2024. So let's just talk about this particular image though, Charlie, because it's not necessarily what we're used to seeing from the Dolomites in terms of how it's been shot and the presentation. So maybe tell us your thoughts about that.
No, absolutely. Well, I'm going to make an assessment that it's an infrared, which when I first discovered infrared, I thought it was the name was infrared as one word. And then infrared, of course, infrared is, I think, quite unpredictable. I'm pretty sure, and I'm putting very carefully, that the chlorophyll in green, spring greens, reflects a lot of infrared radiation, and so greens go white. And I'm sure there'll be many more experienced people who use infrared who'll be able to illustrate its ways. But one of the reasons I particularly like this is, interestingly enough, it's not just a church, but I do love the little sort of flecks of shadow here and there. And they're just so in keeping. They seem to work, the church steeple vertical, and then these little shadows appearing, beautifully distributed throughout the whole palette, if you like, the whole canvas. The two little houses play an important role because they've got their accompanying shadows. And the church is, you know, the main player saying, you know, here I am, what about me? But I think if other people who love and use infrared a lot, and I've seen some very, very, very talented Light and Land guests who use infrared and have produced some really marvelous images. And I can only think they've worked with Ed Rumble, perhaps. But I find this very, very pleasing indeed. The shapes, the shadows, I think the contrast is exceptional. The whites have not blown in any case at all. I can't see any what were blown out highlights, which we know are very fierce. So I think it's hugely pleasing that the church is in an interesting position because all buildings have an expression and a face, and it works really well. We're given its entire identity and character in that little church. So basically an absolutely lovely composition, to use an old word.
Well, let's just talk briefly then about the Dolomites maybe more generally, because you've travelled there a bit and obviously I have too. There's a good number of these churches dotted around, and also, you know, you have very jagged peaks, but I know the guys are going in June, which is a beautiful time because of the meadows, and you have these gorgeous flowers as well. So what are your experiences of shooting in and around the Dolomites from the point of view of how it is for a landscape photographer?
Well, I think, honestly, Sam, your experience and your knowledge of the Dolomites is probably greater than mine. But I think my memories of it is, I think Cortina is an important place. But in terms of the mountains, I do always think of them as rather, I'm trying to think, rather badly kept teeth. They're all teeth-like. They're all incredibly pointed, and so and I think rather unfamiliar to a lot of people. So they are mountainous, but I think the idea of getting wonderful shadows and the mountains, these pointed mountains, playing off one another. They remind me of of teeth.
Poor teeth, yeah.
Yeah, poor teeth. But your memories of the Dolomites, and I'm sure you'll be much more articulate than me. They're very considerable, and it's one of your favourite locations, is it not?
It is, yeah, it is. And I think you're right. The mountainscape is very particular. There are other areas in the world where Dolomite rock formations exist, and so you do see some similar things. Patagonia, etc., is one of those. But I think actually vis-a-vis this image from Ed, you mentioned there, interestingly, about the very sharp, pointed nature. And I think the shape of this little church's roof and its tower kind of, you know, mimic, shall we say, some of those sharp pointed peaks that you see in the Dolomites as well. So these are dotted around, and finding maybe images that can complement each other from the man-made to the natural is quite a fun thing to do in the Dolomites. But you're absolutely right, Charlie, very dramatic. And I think if anyone hasn't been and you enjoy mountain photography in Europe, there is nowhere better. I will just say that for sure. So it's well worth checking out. And Ed and Tom, great combination. They're very funny guys. You'll have a really great time. You'll have a really fun time, but you'll learn a lot as well about shooting in different ways. So if you're keen on that, do jump on the website. They'll be going over in June, and check it out. But for now, Charlie, I'll say thank you very much. And
thank you.
We will see you again next time for another one of these image breakdowns. But from now, from Charlie and I, cheerio.
Cheerio. Thank you so much, Sam.
There we go, everyone. So I hope you enjoyed that with Charlie and I. And we've got some more image reviews to go through on these news shows in the future. But for now, I'm going to say good night to everyone and thank you very much for watching. Appreciate you always hanging out with me, chatting photography, looking at some of the new gear. As I say, we're going to have our winter special before Christmas. So that'll be me and a few of the Lightland leaders going through some winter-based images. And in the meantime, I want you to look out for 2 or 3 of your best ones, and I'll let you know how you can share those with us as well. But for now, big thanks to Astrid for coming along and joining me the first few minutes. If you want to know more about the Light and Land exhibition and the celebrations for next year, just go to lightandland.co.uk. And if you have any questions, let us know in the office or through social media, wherever it may be. But from me, good night, have fun out there, and I'll see you again very soon.